Protecting data across modern decentralized networks presents challenges that traditional backup solutions can't handle. At best, you'll waste time and money managing multiple solutions. At worst, gaps in coverage will leave your data vulnerable. Barracuda Backup is a single cloud-integrated solution that simplifies the backup process and allows data replication to anywhere on your network, a private cloud, Barracuda's cloud, or to the AWS public cloud. Reclaim your data. Try Barracuda Backup free at barracuda.com/backup.
Back to the Dan Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and Sirius XM Channel 80. Sarah Spain and Jason Fitz in for the guys today. Spain and Fitz on 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern weeknights. You can always find our podcasts on the ESPN Pod Center app, podcast, iTunes, etc. if you want to catch up on the show. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Get in touch with us through our 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at ESPN Radio, at Sarah Spain, at Jason Fitz. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to play a little game called Who's an Idiot? We're going to ask you the dumbest thing you've ever done because your team lost a game. Talk about that in a couple minutes, but get yourself ready for that. If you got a good story, we want to hear it in about 15 minutes. But let's set up our own idiocy, Fitz.
Fair.
Friday, we spent most of our show talking about the weekend slate of NFL games, making our predictions, and we weren't always right. And our producer, Dan Z, put together a nice little account of some of the places that maybe we were just a little off.
You've heard all week it's the best weekend in the NFL, and it's not true.
Folds under center, gives it off. Blunt going outside. He's in. Touchdown.
You've got a 1 seed in the NFC in the Eagles that's without their starting quarterback, and I think is going to get thumped.
Ryan rolls. Ryan pumps. Ryan is throwing it up in the air. Incomplete. Incomplete. And the Eagles take over on downs with 58 seconds left.
I'm going Falcons big in this game.
And it's over. It's over. The clock takes away the final seconds, and the Eagles have defeated the Atlanta Falcons 15-10. They are 1 win away from the Super Bowl.
This Steelers team, when they are focused, when they put things together, and they take advantage of the weapons that they have on offense, I absolutely think they're going to win this game.
The give to Fournette, running right up the middle of the field toward the goal line. Touchdown! A 3-yard touchdown run by Leonard Fournette has extended the lead at Heinz Field.
I think that the mental aspect of this game will come in, and that means playoff experience, and that means the aura and vibe that you're getting coming across the field at you from a very, very established Steelers team.
Jacksonville picks it up, takes 2 steps. Keelan Cole takes a knee, and Jacksonville has defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jacksonville is headed to the American Football Conference Championship game.
I think the Saints win this football game, but this is the one I'm the most excited for.
Snap good, spot down, Horvath with plenty of leg, and it is done! Ty Horvath! Yes!
I trust Drew Brees more than I trust Case Keenum, and that's all this comes down to.
Lutz steps into it, and it's good. From 43 yards out and 25 seconds left, the Saints retake the lead.
I don't think the Vikings are going to be able to score a lot of points. I don't love Case Keenum, obviously. I think none of us believe in Case Keenum. Let's say it that way.
Case on a deep drop, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side, caught by Diggs. Stay back! Oh my God! 30, 10, touchdown! Are you kidding me? It's a Minneapolis Miracle! Stephon Diggs and the Minnesota Vikings have walked off on the New Orleans Saints.
I think none of us believe in Case Keenum.
So, about that.
Oops.
Whoopsie.
My bad.
Let's be fair. We did accurately predict that the Titans would lose to the Patriots. We both got that one right.
Daring pick from us. That was Guillermo's epic sound of the day, brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Upgrade to shaving with the fresh blade whenever you want for a fraction of the price. Join Dollar Shave Club today. Those calls thanks to Sports Radio 94 WIP, 1010XL, K-Fan Sports Radio, and WWL for those calls. Yeah, I mean, listen, that Saints-Vikings game we both said was going to be the best of the bunch.
come down to the end. We had the Saints, but who could have predicted the way that one finished? And it was interesting. After the game, I was talking to some people on Twitter, and we're still kind of going back and forth about how necessary it was to bring the Saints out of the locker room, some of them pulling their jerseys back on to kick that extra point that had absolutely no meaning. And Fitz, in the regular season, the reason why they forced that extra point, even if it's a sort of walk-off win, the way that Vikings game was, is because of point differentials for tiebreakers in the postseason. But once you're in the postseason, I don't understand why they would have to do that, because it did affect the end line. When they knelt down, it affected that spread of 5.5.
Well, the interesting thing is the spread. Like, how do you sort of have to play the game the way the game is meant to be played. So you can't just not kick. I mean, I'm with you that it's a walk-off. It's sort of like overtime. Just let them leave. It's done, right? But in a point spread world, you can't just leave a point out there that could be there to be had. So that's a tough situation.
Why? Do you think it's because of gambling?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, otherwise there's no reason to bring him back out on the field, right? I mean, otherwise, especially if safety really mattered, why are you bringing everybody back out to lay into each other for an extra point? And then I can't imagine that moment for the players that just lost the game, for the Saints. You're having to come back out and sort of deal with the emotion of it and go through that. Like, it's what you're doing essentially is you're putting safety at risk. You're also putting guys that are going to be contentious, angry, or hurt against each other on the field. Like, it's a point, yeah. Right. The first time we have a brawl during one of those meaningless points, that's when they'll reimagine it.
Well, it made for a good visual at first because there were no defenders on the field. It was just as if the Vikings were going to line up and kick without any opposition. And while they waited for the Saints to come back, Case Keenum started leading the crowd in the Vikings skull chant, which was pretty cool, pretty great visual. And the gamblers were the only people that cared about this because the Vikings were favored by 4.5 most of the week. But in the last day or two, the line jumped up to 5.5 at a bunch of sports books. So that extra point would have decided who won and lost. And so I guess you're probably right that gambling aspect is why the NFL forces teams to kick. But most of them of late have just been kneeling on the play, which is exactly what happened. 8 minutes and 1 second later, after they finally got everyone back on the field, they just took a knee.
Which is kind of alarming and frustrating for gamblers, I'm sure. But again, the crazy thing is we just saw the walk-off ending against, in the national championship game, right? So we see another one, and it's that moment in sports is just such a perfect. It doesn't matter who you're rooting for. Right. Like, you just yell. Like, I found myself, I felt pretty good, like 30 seconds left. I was like, well, might not have been the prettiest way to get there, but I think I'm 3-1 for the weekend, for the second straight weekend, feeling pretty good. And then that happens, and I'm screaming at the TV. It doesn't matter. And the number of people on Twitter, and you get this all the time, that want to come at you every time you pick a game wrong. I love a fantastic ending. That's all that matters. And the Vikings gave that to us. It's such a perfect, we'll remember that moment in playoff history all the time, which, as a Raiders fan that gets to relive the Tuck rule every year, guys, Saints fans, I'm sorry, because you're going to see that every time there's a fantastic finishes montage for the next 20 years. That play is going to be in it.
Well, Marcus Williams especially, right? The guy who whiffed on the final tackle on Stephon Diggs. That play, which is actually called Heaven 7, is meant for the ball to be caught and the receiver to immediately get out of bounds in order to set up a field goal, which is exactly what the Vikings were going for there. So Stephon Diggs went up to catch what was perhaps not a perfectly thrown ball by Keenum, and instead of it leading him to come in bounds and then run out, he discovered that after Marcus Williams whiffed, he had a whole bunch of field in front of him, and he could be the hero and not leave it to the chance of a kicker. And our own associate producer, Dan Z, seems to think that we should be focusing more on Case Keenum's bad throw than on Marcus Williams' tackle. Explain, Dan Z.
I think a lot of people are missing the entire point of this, which is that Marcus Williams anticipated that Case Keenum was going to make a good throw, and in that situation, a good throw would be to take Stephon Diggs out of bounds, because that throw put the Vikings in field goal range. If he catches that and goes out of bounds, they're going to have a shot at like a 55-yard field goal to win the game. If he gets tackled inbounds, the game is over. There's no way the Vikings had time. So Williams is assuming that this ball is going to take Diggs to the out of bounds line. Keenum throws it behind Diggs, who has to readjust. And because of that, Williams had already committed, thus Diggs scores.
I think it's very possible, but it doesn't mean that it's a good play by him, right?
It is Case Keenum's mediocrity that got the Vikings to the
No,
NFC
because I will say this. If Williams goes into that tackle, no matter what he thinks is going to happen, if he goes into the tackle proper, if he goes into
Heads
the tackle standing instead
Eyes
of
open.
right, I mean, that's all. They keep showing the replay, and it's like he dives basically, and he never puts himself in a position once he's doing that to actually wrap up and make a tackle. That's all he had to do.
It's not to excuse Williams, though. Like, keep that in mind. It's not to excuse Williams. I'm just simply giving an alternative perspective.
As opposed to him trying to avoid a PI or something else. I don't know if you guys saw the video for the Sean Payton dance, but unfortunately some people have paused at the exact right moment where it does look like Marcus Williams is doing a little dance instead of trying to play football. So that's unfortunate for him, and he's going to hear about this, forever. By the way, that touchdown was huge for Vegas. There was a lot of money on the Saints to win outright at 2-1 odds, including one $150,000 bet that would have won $300,000, and it also pushed the total over. So that touchdown and then that extra point that got people on that spread. So pretty big deal, that game, winning a lot of people money and losing a lot of people money. Coming up next, we mentioned it. Who's an idiot? 888-SAY-ESPN. What's the dumbest thing you've ever done because your team lost a game? 888-729-3776. Give us a call. Sarah Spain, Jason Fitz, Dan Lebatard Show with Stugotz.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Goluk look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
Welcome back to the Dan Lebatard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Sarah Spain and Jason Fitz with you on this holiday Monday morning as the guys take the day off. You can hear us regularly, Spain and Fitz, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern weeknights, nationally on ESPN. This is SportsCenter on ESPN Radio. The Tennessee Titans and head coach Mike Mularkey have mutually agreed to part ways. Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels seen as the current favorite to land that gig. Vikings beat the Saints 29-24 on a walk-off 61-yard touchdown from Case Keenum to Stephon Diggs. They head to the NFC Championship game. Blake Bortles led the Jaguars to a 45-42 win over the Steelers. They'll move on to the AFC Championship game. Finally, a 41-year-old Florida man who allegedly ran onto the runway at Miami International Airport told police he'd done so because he didn't know how to read. This according to the Miami Herald, but police say he also ignored verbal warnings. A police officer wrote in a report that Gregory Burns, oh man, I thought it might be Stugotz. How old is Stugotz? I think he's more like 44, but he doesn't know how to read or heed verbal warnings, so it really would have worked out. Police officer wrote in a report that Gregory Burns told officers he thought it would be faster to cross the runway rather than go around, according to the report. Burns is currently being held at the Miami-Dade County's Turner Guilford Night Correction Center on a $1,500 bail, facing a charge of unlawful entry to restricted areas. For all the latest headlines and information, tune into SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. Speaking of idiots, that guy qualifies. We're going to play a little game called Who's an Idiot? And this is inspired by a gentleman who punched his television and then threw it off a balcony because he was mad about the Saints' loss. Doesn't seem smart. Probably got some issues, if that's how angry a game makes you. So let's talk to some other people with issues. Sam in Memphis, are you an idiot?
I was an idiot. Fall of 91, I'm a Raiders fan, so I guess I'm an idiot for that too.
You and me both, Sam. You and me both.
Right in the middle of the Bills Super Bowl run, we had them. We were up 17 points halfway through the fourth quarter. Even the announcer said, with the Raiders defense, this game is over. They stopped Buffalo all day. Buffalo runs through them for a touchdown. I take my drinking glass, and yes, it had a little alcohol in it. Outside on the back, he threw it down to the ground and broke it. I get back in. They fumble a kickoff. Bills score. I take my other glass outside, throw it to the ground. It breaks. After the third one, I get a knock on the door. It's the police.
Oh,
man, and I got a glass in my hand full. He said, "Don't you think you had enough?" I couldn't say anything. He said, "Who are y'all people?" I said, "Well, we're just having a little party." But I said, "No." So we're military. He said, "Let me see your ID." He said, "This is the only reason I'm not taking you to jail." He said, tomorrow afternoon, you get out there and clean all that glass. Do you know somebody can step on it? I said, yes, officer. I know. I said,
well, Sam, it turns out you're an idiot. And I hope that they were part of a set, too, so that you get to the door with the glass in your hand and it matches the two that are broken into pieces on the street outside. Jeremiah in Georgia, are you an idiot?
Yes.
Tell us why.
I was watching a Notre Dame Michigan game about 10 years ago, and of course I'm a Notre Dame fan, and Notre Dame loses on a last-second play. So I decide to run outside, take my phone, and slam it to the ground. It cracks, so I decide to have my buddy do a burnout on the phone and demolish it the rest of the way. Yep,
Jeremiah, that's not wise.
That's phones are expensive too. So,
I guess once you've done it and there's no going back, you might as well drive over it.
He's not going to call in, Sarah, but I will say this. Mike Golick Jr., when we first met, one of my favorite things when we were doing a show together there was to watch his Twitter during Notre Dame games because I knew what hotel he was in, and there was one period where he's like, just broke the remote in the hotel for the third straight week.
Oh, no.
So, I'm just saying, Mike might join the list. Might join the list.
Jay in Florida man, are you an idiot?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm an idiot, but I've done some idiotic things.
Tell us, Jay.
This goes back a way, so I don't know if people who maybe were in the room. Summer of '69, watch freshman at Penn State University, so that gives away some age there. Jerry West hits that shot against the Knicks, and I proceed to punch the dorm room TV.
Ooh.
And the side of it going into the TV. TV didn't break, though, so they can continue watching it, but I had to go to the emergency room for a bunch of stitches and that. So that's kind of an idiotic thing to do.
That is pretty idiotic, Jay. Yeah, the part of the punching the TV thing is once you've punched it, you still have to get your hand out, which I would imagine is the part that hurts maybe even a little bit more. Well, you're just dragging your hand through broken glass and
I'll admit, I like to call it frugal for me. Some people say I'm cheap, but there's a moment where if I called my wife and said the Raiders lost and I broke the TV, I need to go buy a new one. That wouldn't fly.
Yeah, that wouldn't go over very well.
It wouldn't happen. I would have no TV. My wife would say, if you can't, that's good to know. That's what I'm going to go with from now on. It fell. Perfect.
Jeff in Reno, are you an idiot?
Hey, good morning. How's your guys' day going?
Great,
Pretty
thanks.
all right.
Good. I'm a big Raiders fan also. I was about 13 years old. We're going back to the Gruden Bowl, and I couldn't help but start crying after Gannon's third pick, which my first ever girlfriend happened to be watching the game with me.
Oh, no.
And she dumped me after the United States.
Oh, double whammy.
That doesn't make you. I'm gonna
make you an idiot.
That I cried in that Super Bowl too, like a little girl, and all my friends drank all of my alcohol. So it was a very bad. I still remember that day. You can cry when your favorite team loses a Super Bowl.
I cried at the Bears Super Bowl when they lost. It was raining. My phone wasn't working because it had gotten all wet. Thomas Jones got hurt. Our hopes were in Devin Hester and Rex Grossman, and Devin Hester's the only one who held up his side of the bargain. We've all been there. You're not an idiot. You're just a big fan. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Thanks for being idiots. Appreciate your sharing. Coming up next, you thought because, speaking of idiots, Stugotz was off today, there wouldn't be any weekend observations. Well, you were wrong, because I'm taking over, and my weekend observations are next. Sarah Spain, Jason Fitz, Dan Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you are confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you the same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you are getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz. That's rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Welcome back to the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and Sirius XM Channel 80. Dan and Stu and the rest of the shipping container are out today. Sarah Spain and Jason Fitz in for the guys on this holiday Monday morning. You can regularly hear us, Spain and Fitz, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern weeknights on National ESPN Radio. And you can find all of our previous shows from the first 2 weeks of the show on the ESPN Pod Center, the podcast app, iTunes, etc. Thanks for calling in and letting us know about you being idiots. Matthew Friedrichs on Twitter says he broke his hand punching his brother, arguing about KU K-State at his sister's graduation party, and has been regularly mocked at family events for the ensuing 2 decades. Not a great time to lose your cool.
Rightfully so, too. Like, that happens, you get to be mocked. You know, that's fair.
Yeah. We've had people call and tweet in before about getting into fights at siblings' weddings. That's about the worst you can get. Ruining someone's day with a fight.
That takes a special level, like right there. That's there's like a special lack of filter in your mind, like where most people have the I shouldn't do this here,
right.
not right now. You got to really be missing that to have that happen.
And I'm going to forget who it was, but actually there is a famous athlete who's done that story on the Le Batard Show, and I believe it was up for a Suey for Best Story that involved that athlete's wedding. There was a full-on, brawl fight, and it ended up at a club, and there's more fighting. Somebody who's listening, who is a regular on the Le Batard Show, will probably remind me who it is. But that's a classic Suey winning story from a pro athlete. Speaking of regular segments on the Le Batard Show, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. With Stugotz out, somebody needs to do weekend observations, so I'm going to give it my best shot.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Fitz,
yes.
What a weekend of football. The Jags were in the AFC Championship, just like I drew it up at the beginning of the year. Not true. Blake Bortles, hero. Ben Roethlisberger, 0. Mike Tomlin, you had 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning, and your defense hadn't made a stop all day. So, of course, you went for an onside kick. Hey, Steelers, maybe you should have focused on beating the Jags instead of talking about the Patriots. Le'Veon Bell, holdout, collision course. I know skull means cheers, and I know that it's spelled differently, but when I hear it, I don't think cheers, I think chewing tobacco. Vikings fans, new cheer. Collision course. Venus. Sloan. Coco. Aw, see you later. U.S. women blowing it at the Aussie Open. Where's Serena? When you need her. Speaking of blowing it, Marcus Williams. Drew Brees. Overrated. Case Keenum. Case closed. Calais Campbell said on Friday the Jags-Steelers score might be 45-42. Calais Campbell, friendly monster, can see the future. Marcus Williams, want to get away? Marcus Williams, heads up tackling. Ever heard of it? Marcus Williams, never buying a drink in Minneapolis again. Lance Stevenson is paying rent in LeBron James' head. Actually, he owns him so bad, LeBron's paying him. LeBron, stop worrying about Lance Stevenson and start worrying about your terrible team. Celtics, Warriors, NBA Finals, collision course. I don't usually say this, but listen to Gronk. He's right. Don't eat Tide Pods. Bill Simmons says Seth Wickersham's story isn't true because he knows a guy who knows a guy who knows Robert Kraft who says so. Bill Simmons says he doesn't doubt Seth's reporting. Then why are you writing this story in the first place? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Sam Bradford.
Sam Bradford who?
Sup. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Bridgewater who?
Sup. Case Keenum. Case open. Brady. Foles. Bortles. Keenum. It's a quarterback's league, people. Markelle Fultz. Can't remember how to shoot. Sixers. Broke another one. Blake Bortles. Undefeated in the playoffs. Blake Bortles. Legend. Trae Young. Aptly named. Falcons. Fly on home and join Georgia and your disappointed fans in Atlanta, the new Cleveland. I mean, seriously, how much disappointment can Atlanta fans take in 1 week? Eagles, gonna be underdogs at home again. Kevin Sumlin, 5-year deal to be the new head coach at Arizona. Kevin Sumlin still owed $10.4 million by Texas A&M. I'm in the wrong business. LiAngelo, LaMelo, 0 points combined in their pro debut. LiAngelo, LaMelo, plane back to the States, collision course. Leonard Fournette, beast. A Hawaii Emergency Management Agency employee accidentally sent out a missile alert, sending the entire state into a panic. There's a little Stugotz in all of us. Stephon Diggs, hell of a catch. Speaking of hell, when you get there, LeVar, say hi to Art Briles. And those are the weekend observations.
That's well done.
That's all I got. You don't know what the weekend observations are, so you're very confused right now.
It was entertaining to listen to you. Like, I still don't understand the little beepy things, but that's why I'm gonna get just ridiculed by Dan and the boys when they come back together for my job here.
Well, Fritz, I'm concerned about you hearing weekend observations for the first time from an imposter like myself. The commish does many things, but those are Stugotz's wheelhouse. So I need you to go back and listen to some old weekend observations, and then it'll all start to make sense.
Well, Stugotz could also just text me sometime and be like, "You up?" and just send me some links. But you up? You up? I want to talk about iguanas. That's all I need from Stugotz.
Stugotz. This was Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage, and I'm really Stugotz now because I can't read. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up, more football talk, a terrorist threat against the Steelers and the fans, and the Saints players getting ragged on by a team that they beat down all year. That's straight ahead. Sarah Spain, Jason Fitz. It's the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Welcome back to the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and Sirius XM Channel 80. Sarah Spain and Jason Fitz in with you this Monday morning. The guys are out. You can regularly hear Spain and Fitz 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern weeknights on ESPN Radio. I knew you guys would come through for me. And Fitz, I know you haven't heard this yet, but everybody came in with it was the Trick Daddy wedding brawl. We were talking about people being idiots and people fighting at graduation, and the Trick Daddy wedding story is magical. And here's just a little bit of it involving the catering service and his friends.
Think about it as a show. In the interim, play the Trick Daddy story talking about his wedding day.
I think I had one of the wildest weddings in history. Because it was like the whole Hialeah police department had raided it with their little dogs and their shotguns and everything. It was the biggest fight I ever seen on the street. It happened at my wedding reception. My friends, of course, I represent the thugs, the people we had catering the food. It was like my friends wanted to eat, and they was like on some can't beat them, join them type mess.
So wait a minute, the people catering the food got beaten up by your thug friends?
They got mollywop. Like I have a lot of friends from like a lot of island that they eat nothing but soy products. He was asking like what was the options, and the people who I use to cook, I got real good soul food cooks like out the hood. So these people from Opalaka, so they ain't want to hear what this dude from Liberty City had to say. So it came on that, you know. It started off right off that. Don't talk to me like that. Who you think you talking to? Get your hand on my face. Boom, 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 bing, bing. You know how the cartoon characters go. It was the biggest fight I ever seen on the street. Boom, 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 boom. We never ate at the reception. We went to bond people out of jail. My father-in-law, he ended up with the assault of a police officer. You know, you don't get in between a man that's trying to marry his daughter and his attitude. You will get that right hook. We never ate at the reception. We went to bond people out of jail. We had lobster tails, macaroni, shrimp. We had like the real ghetto-like menu, and we never ate none of that. I tasted macaroni after I wiped the love off my neck. Macaroni, my neck.
Okay, I forgot about the fact that when they brought it back for the Suey Awards, they inexplicably put the Jaws music under it. And if I remember correctly, Dan at one point interrupts and he's like, just let the man tell the story. What is up with all the production value? But we did get the benefit of hearing him say he wiped macaroni off of his neck multiple times, which is amazing. So I'm sorry, but fighting the catering crew at your wedding is so bad.
This shows you difference in like just awesomeness and swagger and all the things that are missing from country music, because I can tell you like all of the times that we were ever on tour and there was some sort of a catering thing, like for many country acts, not all of them, but for many country acts, it's actually in your employee agreement that you can be fired for being rude to somebody at catering, because wherever you go, you're representing the people you work for and work with. So I'm just imagining when I hear this wedding catering story, like if I'm just imagining food flying backstage at a concert on the road. Never would have worked for us. Never.
Well, also, I don't know what your catering looks like, and maybe down in Miami, if you get the good soul food catering with the lobster and the whatever else, like he was mentioning, maybe they look a little bit tougher. But the kind of catering that I've seen are skinny dudes and short women. And like, I'm just trying to picture them getting in a fight with Trick Daddy's friends, and magic, absolute magic. Thank you, listeners, loyal listeners, for all of you telling me the story I was looking for. That definitely beats the guy punching his brother at his sister's graduation party. That's a whole lot worse. So I don't want to mention the terrorist story and then not follow up on it. I don't know if you saw this, Fitz, but this was pretty crazy. So a guy messaged both the I think a local radio station and Heinz Field itself, threatening to kill himself and a bunch of players. Pittsburgh station got this threat from him. This Sunday's playoff game in Pittsburgh is going to be like no other. Why? Because it's going to be my last day on this pathetic planet. So why not take some innocent lives with me? The Steelers game will be packed, and that's when I plan on killing Steelers football players and fans before taking my own pitiful life. After all, what does a person that's going to commit suicide have to lose? Absolutely nothing. So why not take out some $1 million Steelers players before me? Sounds like a good idea. Ha 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 ha. That is insane.
That's crazy, and it's a sad piece to be in, because you want to live in a world where you can feel safe wherever you go, and you can feel safe wherever you are. And this is something that you deal with a lot. Like country music dealt with it last year, obviously, with the Las Vegas incident. Mm-hmm. And so it's always tough for me when people joke about it, because there's two sides of it. One is, it's scary to think that you're going to go to a game and you may have to deal with that. Two, the person that's making that statement may be very ill and may need a lot of help. And so it's such a difficult situation to be in, where you don't feel, you should always feel safe when you're going to a football game, you're going to a concert, you're going to the movies, you should always feel safe. So it's crazy that somebody thinks that that's even appropriate to joke about, but also that person probably needs a lot of help.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it was a joke. The ha-ha at the end, I think, is twisted, He's been arrested, and obviously a huge deal for, Pittsburgh. They have to send out a note from their director of communications about, law enforcement thwarting the threat. And he's being charged with making a terroristic threat to the public, that according to the station. But yeah, pretty crazy that was going on as they're trying to prep to host a massive playoff game. Obviously a big bonus that they didn't have to deal with it beyond, that station, everybody stepping in. Also, I don't know if you saw this, but there's a handful of Panthers players talking trash to the Saints about their loss, which is kind of crazy because the Saints beat them in every single meeting this year, and they're the ones that bounced them from the playoffs. Are you saying like yay or nay on dudes that got beaten by one team celebrating when that team then loses in the next round?
I mean, this is absurd, right? Like, I'm a little guy and used to play a lot of pickup basketball, right? I can't imagine getting my butt kicked and then you're back on the wall at the gym waiting to get back in and you're talking trash to the team that already kicked your butt about them losing. You don't get to do that. Like, this plays forward. I don't care if they're pro athletes or not. There's a level where when you got beat twice and when they ended you just don't get to do it. Like, sit down, shut up, and worry about next season.
Yeah, so Thomas Davis tweeted out, this linebacker tweeted out, "Wow, humble yourself," which is especially problematic considering that they just humbled you last week. And then Jonathan Stewart with a laughing and like a shrugging with a keep pounding. I mean, to me, how are you going to celebrate when you got bounced? Like, the same thing happened with McKinley from the Falcons. They were not more than a day before watching your season end to the Eagles, and he tweets out, when you get eliminated from the playoffs, but you see the Aints get eliminated.
Yeah, I mean, and the humble yourself thing just continues to stick in my mind. Like, you're never going to go to Twitter to tell somebody to get humble, right? Like, that's just not, the whole process is failed at this point. And it's a sort of a reminder through the end of the playoffs. We saw a lot of people whose mentality and focus may not have been on the right things.
Mm-hmm. Let's check the polls that we did today. As you know, ESPN Batard show makes a mockery of sports polls by polling things that aren't sports. So let's go to the poll. The question was, are you happy that Sarah Spain and Jason Fitz didn't do any polls while filling in for Batard show? 42% said yes, 58% said no. But did we not do any polls since we just did a poll?
Very meta.
And is that the ultimate mockery of the polls? Think about it.
Always high.
Thanks a lot for listening to us. Stephen A. Smith's show is coming up next. We know we're not the guys, but we appreciate you listening. Sarah Spain, Jason Fitz, listen to us weeknights, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio. This was the Dan Batard Show with Stugotz.
I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels. Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.